Is imperative. The intent is to promote children's movement because that is developmentally appropriate. When they've been sitting all day, although I know a lot of our classes use a lot of flexible seating and movement, and I have also advocated for quite a while, as some others have, for the sort of spaces where children can be calmer, quiet, focus. That's why I've been having discussions for months now with our facility staff about outdoor spaces that can promote time for reflection and or just to walk around and be by themselves. So I think that it is absolutely essential to include the outdoor piece because that is also research-based and showing that children need to be outside. In fact, driving here today, I looked at the sky and I said, oh, wouldn't it be amazing if our kids could be outside like this whole day? That brings me to my next point, which is we're talking about a cultural shift, and this policy does a lot to put us in that direction. But the cultural shift is in the designing of our spaces, our new facilities, but our current facilities, and we know that places are doing them. But even yesterday, Dr. Braber and we were talking about how Herndon Middle School, the PTA is raising money to purchase basketball hoops. Why is the PTA having to fund basketball hoops? Well, because traditionally there hadn't been a time for kids to be outside and play. So this is something now that we need to consider as we budget and do CIP. What kind of recess equipment or spaces are needed? Okay, that's a cultural shift in how we budget, how we design. There's also going to be a cultural shift for our staff to know that it's essential that kids have time outdoors for recess, and they need to protect and maximize that time unless it's an extenuating circumstance. And our students as well, they're going to need to understand that they have a choice, but they also are going to need to dress for the weather. And if our students don't have access to weather-appropriate clothing, I've already heard from some PTAs who want to create those banks of clothes. I mean, we're not going to send them out in pouring torrential downpours, but it's okay to get a little bit wet or to get a little bit of sun and learn to put on sunscreen. I mean, these are life lessons that we're teaching students to go out and to be healthy and be in the world. I also think that, ultimately we're talking about safe and accessible space, and we're talking about developmentally appropriate space. So I do agree that the language as written with the edits from the governance committee is completely appropriate. I think the space to take a break, to play the Uno, to meditate, to pray, to do whatever someone wants to do is a parallel track here, and we need to create that space outside. I also will put in a plug for, could we start to talk more about intramural sports? Growing up in a place where I could play on soccer, as terrible as I was in middle school, as a parent now running my kid around to travel soccer, it's still a cultural phenomenon I don't understand here, and I know that parents want their kids to be able to stay after school, and some middle schools offer that. But that is a great conversation that we can have, but this policy at least helps us secure that time during the school day for that outdoor break time for kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm now sitting in this gorgeous, flexible meeting space that teachers can sign up for and use with their students. And it brings me to the topic of having spaces in our schools, especially our middle and high schools, where students can find space to chill out, relax, meet up with friends, have a snack. I walked around as the bell was ringing and classes were changing and saw students sitting on the floor eating their snacks. It wasn't crowded, but it just could be a lot more pleasant. And then I ran into a student in the restroom who was, taking a break there instead of, going over to lunch. And, our students, they're humans and they need human spaces. So I'm excited that the school board is going to be approving more recess for middle school students. But as I spoke about at a public meeting on that just yesterday, we have to then make our facilities ready to accommodate students who are on physical breaks for recess, physical energy movement breaks, and also those breaks for times when they want to be reflective or just catch their breath or have a snack or chat with their friends. So this is something that's going to take some investment in our schools, not only, of course, new construction and renovations, but our current facilities. And so I'm going to be asking what it would take to add spaces in, whether that includes removing locker bays that are no longer used or outfitting outdoor spaces with furniture and recess equipment, because what gets funded gets done, and this needs to get done for our kids in middle and high, as well as some spaces in elementary that are geared for that age group. All right, from South Lakes High School, this is Melanie Marin, out.